And what's important about that is that most businesses are out of alignment, and which is good for you and me because we're able to provide the kind of skills that they need to be able to get back into alignment. You can imagine you have the present business that is either working or not working, but most people focus on the present and they forget or ignore or choose not to be really good at the new business. And that's the business crisis that businesses are facing today, that they're not able to leap. And the reason they're not able to leap is really quite simple. If we look at it, you have your existing business, current business, you have your portfolio of emerging businesses, which is 10 different components, really comprises all of that alignment. And what's important about that is that most businesses are out of alignment, and which is good for you and me because we're able to provide the kind of skills that they need to be able to get back into alignment. And a lot of the models that have come out of that, I've really focused on the models, not just the business model canvas or the value propositions, but there's a new one that's come out. But the new one is really a portfolio. And the book is coming out at the end of this year, written by the same guy, Alex Osterwalder. But I know the concept, and it's really building a portfolio of new businesses. So if you can imagine, you have the present business that is either working or not working, but most people focus on the present and they forget or ignore or choose not to be really good at the new business. So they're exploiting, and they use the word exploiting the current business because it generates a lot of revenue. Mistake is not acceptable. It has a current proven model, the process. All they have to do is fine tune it and scale up. And some people are scaling somewhat, but at the same time, simultaneously, what we have to do is all businesses, including mine, including yours, including small, medium, and large size enterprises, they have to start with the small portfolio of new business exploration. And Apple does it well, Amazon does it well, Google does it really well, but the old businesses like General Electric is just tanked. You know, they lost 500 billion. I think it was 500. They just lost a lot of money, and they're still tanking. They have a new CEO. So this is the portfolio. You have the current business that is being exploited, meaning improve the processes, generate as much revenue as you can, and the newer portfolio, and it's multiple. And the reason it's a portfolio of not just one new enterprise, but it's a combination of many. To give you an idea, from Google, they expect that 1 out of 10 are only going to succeed, 9 are going to fail. The real numbers is 1 out of 25 that succeeds. And so you got to have 24 that fail or are mediocre. Actually, the numbers when they did the test, it was, I think, 16 businesses failed. 8 of those went forward somewhat, but only 1 really hit to the point that it matched the income of the current business. So that's what I'm calling the business crisis. There's a business crisis that's going on that businesses know about it, but they don't know how to handle it. The crisis is that they can't leapfrog to the next one really good. Example of Tesla. Tesla is really interesting because they thought that the founders, they were in their 30s, early 40s, they said, let's start up Tesla after they got their money from PayPal. And they only created 200 of the X cars to test out the market to see is there a viability for electric cars. And yeah, it was. There is. They sold 200. So they said, let's sell a more affordable car and see where that goes. And of course, they did. Except what happened is they had problems ramping up. And so here you have a model that they had problems ramping up with that new Tesla. And they said, we have no money. Elon Musk put all his money into it. They were going broke. with a really good model, but they couldn't scale up. And so what they started doing is came up with another portfolio, another business, which was the consulting business. They sold their electronics, their technology. They got into the consulting business so that they could sell it to other car manufacturers. And that brought in some cash. I don't know if it equaled what it had, but it brought in cash. And then beyond that, they thought, well, now that we did that, let's start another portfolio, which was the battery business. And so they started building the battery manufacturing so that they could sell the batteries to all the other electric cars. And then after that, they said, what else can we do? That's crazy. And of course, the trip to Mars kind of situation. So that whole thing, Elon Musk, it's innovative. And a lot of those companies, they're almost going out of business. Tesla, they're in and out of business until they come out with a new portfolio of businesses, which is really interesting. What differentiates them, what differentiates the Amazons of the world and bookstores is that Amazon says, we're not just a bookstore. We're here with multiple portfolio businesses. So they start selling DVDs, they start selling music, they start selling other products. Then they said, we have all this infrastructure built up, which is their cloud service. And what's interesting is that they only use that cloud service the day before Christmas or the Thanksgiving. The rest of the time, that cloud service was idle. And they said, well, instead of just handling for that, why don't we sell the cloud service to the rest of the world? And Amazon Web Services came out. That's their big generator. That, the distribution does, in fact, they only became profitable a year ago. But the Amazon Web Services, extremely profitable. They dominate the industry. They're better than IBM. They're better than Microsoft. Apple uses Amazon Web Services. Uber uses them. The big guys use Amazon Web Services. And that only came about because that was not their intention. The intention was to be able to provide that infrastructure for their distribution until they could ramp up. But they took that surplus and they made it a gold mine. And that's the business crisis that businesses are facing today, that they're not able to leap. And the reason they're not able to leap is really quite simple. If we look at it, you have your existing business, current business, you have your portfolio of emerging businesses. This one, for instance, generates a lot of revenue. Failure is not an option. Processing improvement is a must. That mindset from a strategic standpoint does not fit the emerging businesses because failure is a must. It's acceptable. There is no revenue, and also there are no clients or few clients. So you have a different type of mindset for two different models. And what happens is the management is not able to leap over. That's the crisis. And what really brings it together, the crisis, is being able to put together somebody in between, the Set for Life, the PeersOnDemand, the people, the strategists in here that says, let's bridge this. Let's help you put this together. The same people almost can't run those two different businesses. It almost has to be a different structure. And that's why it's a business crisis here, that they can't, from a culture standpoint, they can't jump into it as quickly. But they must do that, because if this emerging business doesn't happen ever, this will constrict because of competition, obsolescence. The Kodaks, the General Electrics of the world compress and they go out of business and they have nothing to go for. And that's the crisis that a lot of businesses are feeling it, especially because technology is going at a rapid pace. Competition is going at a rapid pace, and also the global perspective